Welcome to the Value Maker podcast. My name is Ryan Perist. I'm your host, supported by Heather Bicknell, as we meet with the people that make the digital workspace work. It's about the technology, it's about improving people's work experience and finding the return on value. How things?
Good. Pretty good.
Good. Good.
How about you?
Yeah, fine. I am in the process of having my garden dug up to put in a concrete slab for my log cabin office that's going to be put in the garden.
Oh, wow. Tell me
Yeah.
more about that.
Well, I mean, as you know, we've been working from home for a long time, and I use the playroom and my wife uses the spare room. And about a month ago, she said to me, it's enough now. You need to get your own space. And I've got my in-laws coming and my brother-in-law and all the rest of it. So there's going to be a lot of people in the house and I can be quite loud. So kind of two things, solving two problems. One is solving the space problem. So she can move downstairs, the playroom, and I can move outside. And then also I like to get up early and work, but I haven't been doing that because I'm told I make too much noise. So if I have the outside office, then I can get up early, can go sit outside and I can work. Plus I wanted to have whiteboards on the wall. I can't do that in the house. So it's like all these problems have been solved by having outdoor things. So the slab going in now, the log cabin, ironically, is arriving on time or ahead of schedule. And I say ironically because the first guys that I ordered through, I'd only got at the end of August. And I met a guy just at another garden center who said, no, we can do it in 5 weeks. And they're actually a week ahead of schedule. So they've done it in 4 weeks for the same price. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend building a log cabin.
When you say building, how much comes pre-constructed or how much is DIY?
Well, they cut all the wood to the right sizes and stuff. So it's really just following instruction manual. So you got to put your floor down, and then there's lots. I mean, I watched all the videos. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I could probably build it in a day, 2 days at max. But you're really just putting things in, building the frame, and then you're just putting the wood slats down.
Like IKEA.
Yeah, everything's IKEA based. I mean, there's a good reason why you do that, because it gives you ownership, because how you built it. Yeah, so I'll have that all built by the weekend, and then the network and the electrics get done next week. So it'll be powered and have lights, have a network cable, ready to go. So
No climate controls. You just got to bring in like a fan or a space heater as needed.
I've got these portable aircon units that I bought, because summer only lasts about 4 days in this country. So I've bought those, and we use them upstairs because the upstairs gets really hot. So I'm gonna use one of those as my unit, because that should be enough to heat to cool that room the right temperature, and it's a smart unit, so I can set it to run on schedules and stuff like that, which is also important to me. So yeah, so it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna have the only thing I'm not going to make smart is the lights. I think for now the lights will be standard LED lights, but over time I might make them smart as well, like with dimmable. It's funny when you do these sorts of things, it's so easy to spend a little bit extra money on something. So for example, with putting the slab in, it's a 4 meter slab by 3 meters, which I don't know what that is in feet, 10 by 6 or something like that, 14 by 6 feet. But I've got this little patch of grass now, which is 1 meter by 4 meters, so 3 feet by 12, that I was just going to leave. But stupidly, I was like, why am I leaving that? It makes no sense, because then you have a concrete slab and you have this little bit of grass, and now you got to cut and maintain, which is probably going to die because it's going to be between two buildings and get no sun. So now we're doing that as well. And so that's like an extra $400. And now, I'm thinking about the lights. The lights aren't. If I put the lights in and I change them in 6 months' time, it's a waste of money to put the first ones in. So rather spend the extra money now making them dimmable, because that'll be useful. So it's funny how you can, like, you think, oh, it's only this much, it's only $20 here or $200 there, whatever. The next thing you know, you've spent an extra grand on something that you hadn't planned to spend. But I'm going to spend a lot of time in there, so I don't want it to be a complete disaster.
Well, the home projects, yeah, I get that. They really stack up, but it's exciting. I feel like I've talked to like a handful of people over the years of, the work from home movement who have been out in a shed of some variety. So people seem to enjoy it. It's like you get a little commute back, walking the few steps from your home into your office. Obviously, you get the privacy component. So I hope it's great. It sounds
Well,
exciting.
it's interesting because I mean that's exactly what I'm looking forward to. But it's also like things that I haven't done in the house. Like I wanted to put a treadmill in. So like when we have these calls, I could be walking. And I've got my balance board I'm on at the moment. So like having those things, I haven't done that because it's the kids' playroom. If I put like a treadmill in here, then the kids can't play in their playroom. And also when they get home from school, it's very difficult for me to do a meeting because they're coming into, they've actually become conditioned not to use the playroom now because it's my office.
Mhm.
Whereas my wife is a little bit less, she's less constricted in the evening. So I think having that space will be really useful. And then there's other reasons for it being useful. You now partition from a context point of view, you're not blurring your house with work. And going outside to work is now like an extra step. So in some respects, I might work a little bit less, have a bit more balance, but we'll see. See what happens. I'm interested to see how it works.
Be a fascinating little study to see. Yeah, just going a few steps outside the house. Is that the ticket to rewiring your brain? You get to 5 o'clock, and yeah, I remember in the days at the office when the people around you are leaving and lights are starting to go off, and people are grabbing their leftovers from the fridge and putting their coat on and saying goodbye to everyone. You're not going to be there until 8 o'clock unless you have something like some really big deadline or something to absolutely finish. It would be so outside of the norm. But working from home, it's so easy just to keep going at your laptop or, check back in after dinner, that kind of a thing.
Well, and there's other things here that I haven't done, like because I'm inside that I'll do outside. So, for example, my weights will be outside. They'll be nearby, so I can do my weights. I can lift like with dumbbells that are just the dumbbells I want to use. If I want to go and do a workout right next to the office now, like in between a break, because right now for my playroom to my kitchen is about the most walking that I do, and I might go outside and work out. But now if I've got a 5 minute break, I might just stand outside on the grass and ground or do a quick workout there because it's like now it's all outside. It's I'm not affecting anybody. And if it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm already outside, so it all becomes like I just think mentally I'll just be a little bit more. It'll become that bit easier to do stuff. I'm very excited for that point of view. Yeah.
It's good to get a change every now and again. But yeah, home office, home gym. I'm excited for the tour. I highly recommend a walking pad, by the way, as your treadmill, because then you can just
Yeah, 100,
bucks.
yeah, $100, $150. And I'm not looking because I still go for a walk in the morning before work starts. But there's those calls where, even now I'm balancing my balance board, but just being in a slow walk, especially if it's raining outside. There's nothing worse than going for a walk in the rain. If it's that because we can have sideways rain in a few seconds. So to have the walking pad would be nice. And one thing that's funny now that I'm thinking about an office, I'm now thinking about sitting again, which is quite weird. So my current standing desk doesn't work it doesn't lower anymore. The one motors give me trouble, which is quite funny because if I take the top off and I run the motor, it works fine.
Hmm.
But the minute I put weight on it, as in the desk with all the stuff on it, it makes a terrible noise. So I don't know what's actually wrong with it. But in moving outside now, I might actually go up and down because now then I can leave my chair lying around because when the kids in the playroom, I don't leave my chair lying around, so I stand all day long, and I'm back to wearing a weighted vest again. So like it's all that kind of stuff that I do that I haven't been doing because it affects the kids, but now I'm going to do. So I'm interested to see how things change by having this outside man cave, which I'm not allowed to call a man cave. My wife wants to use it too. But even my Lego sets that I've been buying over the years, I haven't built them because the
Mm,
kids tear them apart. But now I can put them because when I build a Lego thing, it's like 3D puzzles. You want to leave it there in its built state. And I can just see how the home automation is going to kick in. We do all sorts of smart things in there, like light dimming and you've seen already, and automatic blinds and all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Definitely going to put a TV out there, coffee machine, you know, automatic coffee
Whole
machine.
the
Awesome.
whole setup. Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm picturing like a shelf with all of your built Legos and gadgets?
Well, that's it, and there's lots of toys that I've bought over the years, or Kirsten's bought me as presents that I haven't been able to play with because the kids are too young. But now I could probably put them in there. Like I could fly my little drones around because that's a dedicated space where the toys can live. And my son's at that age. I built him Titanic this weekend, a wooden Titanic out of balsa wood, like one of those kits.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit too advanced for him. He's only 6, and he's a strong boy, and he broke a few pieces just by being a little bit too strong. But I could see now, like if I'm outside, we could have like a hobbies area in that room, which again, it's different mindset, different mentality. And some of the stuff that I built, like I bought all those Arduino smart, but they're smart, but those Arduino things where you can wire up your own sensors and you can build your own components using just like little kits. So it's all electronics, but I haven't had a place to put it. So that I could see me doing a lot of that kind of stuff outside now instead of working. Like it'll become hobby area as well. And that Arduino stuff is really impressive because you can write your own Python code to go with it. So I built a few things before that I think we talked about using Raspberry Pi AI.
Yeah.
And I found a few libraries now that you can probably build your own large language model on a Raspberry Pi. It won't be very powerful, there won't be enough tokens. But it was quite interesting that that's already available. Sort of edge computing. You get a really powerful Raspberry 4, which I think is the biggest. I think that's 16 gigs of RAM. Was it 16 gigs of RAM? I can't remember. It's the biggest one. 4 gigs of RAM maybe. But to have like that in your house and build your own large language model, I think that's like the ultimate geek right now.
Does sound like it. So you'll be done with this in 2-ish weeks, you said, and that's when
the log cabin arrives tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those you need 2 people to build. So my brother-in-law gets here on Friday. So little does he know, he's arriving to do some work.
Nice. Got to earn his keep.
That's it. So I can see that being Saturday. We should be able to build it in a day. It might be the weekend. And then the electrician comes next Tuesday. My wife's got a surgery, so we'll be out the whole day. But in theory, I'd be wired up, ready to go, at least with an empty building by the end of Tuesday next week.
Wow.
And then it's the real fun part about moving everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing more fun than moving tables and rewiring everything up.
And then
that's
there's the point of no return where you have, you got to commit.
Yeah. So for me, for example, like my laptop's on a stand with 2 screens. Like I'm going to take that all apart, move that outside. Then I'm going to take the table apart, move that outside because the table's quite heavy, and then go build the table again outside. So that's like a 2-hour day, 2 hour of the day done. And then I have to look at how, obviously when you're wiring things up, you've got a mental image of, I'm going to do it this way. But then when you start putting things in the room, it now becomes real. And you're like, I think that was a bad idea. So have I put the plugs in the right place? Have I put the network connections in the right place? All that kind of stuff. So I think, probably a week from now to have the room, another week to be settled. And then it'll be little enhancements, like putting up shelves, putting in the other desk for my wife, because now she's jumping in on that. So it'll be interesting to see and then putting the whiteboards up, because I won't put those up first. I'll put those up last, because I want to see, you got to do like a whole day in the room to see how the sun affects you. Mm-hmm. So the way it's going, we've got a south facing house, which in the northern hemisphere obviously means you get the sun in the afternoon on that side. The sun's going to come over, and then if it doesn't come over into the room, it comes in around the back of it. So it'll get quite dark in there. So I don't think it'll matter too much which side in the afternoon I am, but it's really from 11 o'clock till 2 o'clock, I might get a lot of sun. So it just depends on where I put the screens stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like either wall will have screens. So either a TV on one side and screen on the other side. Because I was thinking about, I interviewed, what was his name? Kwanda. It was Kwala Kwanda, who ran the video business. And he had this, when I spoke to him, he was sitting on a couch with a camera looking at him. He says, no, that's how he does all his calls. He sits on a couch and does his video calls. Oh, that was really cool. So I was thinking about having a nice armchair facing the one side where the screen is, and then setting up the camera and all that stuff. So I could do a lot of my calls instead of at my desk like I am now, but actually sitting down comfortably having a chat, and just to have a different experience, because now you got the space, you can do that. And I've got a chair here in this room, but I've got all the kids' toys around and all that kind of stuff. So you can't really set it up. But now I've got dedicated space. I can actually turn it into a nice room. And then, from the podcast point of view, I've still got this microphone, this Yeti, and getting that in play. Although for some reason it's not working with this USB docking station that I've got. It might be time to put in another computer that's dedicated for podcasting with nicer calls. We'll see.
You could get one of those fancy boom arms, so you could just swing your mic over.
But I kind of
Love
do.
those.
It's kind of here.
Okay. You got, you had an arm for it.
But for some reason, like even though it's on, for some reason, Teams just doesn't pick it up.
Huh. I have to mess with my audio settings like every time I join the call. It connected to my AirPods today, which aren't even in the room. So I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I don't think I had them on for the last call either. So just decided that needed to be my primary audio.
Yeah, it's amazing how this product seems to be degrading on a daily basis. Old Teams.
What do you think? New Teams versus old Teams? Do you have a take?
Yeah, and in fact, I'm going to do a little webinar with some other guys to discuss it, because I think there's some pros. So the ability to have more than one Teams account and be able to switch between them really easily, that's great. I definitely find the performance is much better, but the pet peeves are still there, like picking the wrong audio devices. That's a big one. The random crashes sometimes is another one. I'm also finding like OneDrive and Teams don't work very well together. My OneDrive seems to fail all the time, which I find quite frustrating. So it's almost like the minute you do more than one account, the stuff all has a fit and breaks. So like I've got 2 OneDrive accounts, never mind my personal one, and my 2 business ones, they always fail. So you can't really synchronize anything. And then they're synchronized for the weirdest issues, like a special character in the file name, which is not really a special character, like a space. It's not a special character, but it'll fail for that reason. And then we're trying to use collaborative Excel the other day. And if you apply too many things, like too many conditional formatting things, because we're using colors for stuff, it breaks. So I'm not convinced that Microsoft has really got this collaborative thing completely sussed out yet, versus like Google's version, which pretty much works faultlessly. I mean, if you go use a Sheets or Pages in Google, you hardly ever have an issue. And maybe it's because they've architected from the ground up, versus Microsoft kind of grandfathering in some of those new capabilities. But I'm finding, I mean, don't get me wrong, I use Teams all day long and I use Slack all day long, and I am a little more comfortable in Teams over Slack. I find Slack very, very frustrating to use, which probably is contrary to a lot of people's view. And I find Zoom better for some things conference call wise, but I still have an issue where if I want to do a recording, I can't get a local copy of the recording from Zoom. Even though it's all set and configured, it just won't do it. It always wants to go to cloud. And then the cloud doesn't, for what we do, I automate the whole recording process. So like we'll do our Teams call now, it'll save us locally. It'll go through a whole process of moving the recording into the right folder and all that stuff. I can't do that with Zoom. And what happens often is that we'll do the recording in Zoom. So when I do the other podcast interview, that's on Zoom, it doesn't process it straight away. You got to wait like an hour. So I forget about the recording because it's sitting in the cloud being processed. Whereas if it was recording it locally, like Teams does, it's processing it there. I don't really mind when it finishes because it'll automatically finish and automatically get processed and put to the right folder. So, trying to find that productivity nirvana where it works with everything. And in that respect, Teams still has the nirvana kind of there, kind of works. Chat works, videos work. I mean, the only thing that's still confusing, and I saw the functionality the other day. If you have a meeting, you start a chat in that meeting, and we do this a lot at Phoenix One, we will use the chat from the meeting and keep that forever. We'll persist that chat. So we'll have meetings that belong to those chats. Mm-hmm. But what you really want to do is have the meeting belong to a channel inside a team, inside the Teams team functionality, which is confusing on its own. So that because when you have the chat and the meeting linked to the Teams group, let's call it a group rather, then you could have the files that go with it. You can have the other functionality that you would use, like a Miro board or a poll, or I don't know, whatever you want to add. and it's a bit more it's a bit more organized, and you can have multiple chats. So I could set up my project structure, for example, where I've got an internal channel, external channel, QA channel, whatever it is. Because what happens right now is the guys will create a meeting chat per topic for a customer, and then just chat in it, and then you end up with like a list of chats that are just it's like wildfire chaos. And I think that's where Teams really has missed the boat completely. It's not a very organized place. It's actually become
Could be more
and
organized. Yeah.
it's anti-organization.
Yeah. I went in my Slack the other day, kind of grouped. I discovered this like a couple months ago that you can group all your Slack channels. I assigned them different icons. I kind of rebuilt the Teams like experience from that perspective of having things grouped, and it made my brain happy. But yeah, definitely agree in terms of the meeting versus channel versus all that mess. Well, I know we're at time, but I am very much looking forward to seeing your completed office project and hearing how that goes and whether I should turn my garden shed into my home office.
I'm excited for it for lots of reasons, and I can't wait. We should track how this goes. And the other thing we can chat about maybe on Friday is the new functionality we just put into the Value workspace product. You can now graph your measures. So I'm so excited about that and make your own
Ooh.
personalized dashboard. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
So
talk about that on Friday.
I think on Friday, depending on how chaos goes, I might even take you through the product and do a live demo with you. I can show you some stuff.
That's exciting. I'd love to see it.
Brilliant.
Sounds good.
We'll chat to you later.
Sounds good.
Thanks for that.
Bye, Ryan.
Bye. Thank you for listening to our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share it with your friends and colleagues. Help us grow our network. Please also check out our website at www.valuu.work and our product that's on there. It's something we worked really hard on. We hope that it benefits you.